Adventures in Deep Listening, Episode 2. Today I had a patient that I've had for quite a while, and I've always noticed his hand was a little bit disfigured. It looked different. And I remember asking him initially what happened to his hand, and he said, "Oh, I had an injury." And that's as far as it went, at least is what I can remember. But today, with the intention of deeply listening, he briefly mentioned something about his hand, and I said, "Tell me about your hand." And he started in on a story, and then he stopped after just a couple of seconds, and he said, "I've got a really great testimony about that hand if you want to hear it." And I said, "Absolutely." And he went on to tell me the story of how he injured his hand. And he was caught between a 700-pound transformer and a wall, and the chain that was holding the transformer broke, and it trapped his hand between the transformer and the wall. And before anyone could get to him to help him, with his opposite hand, he grabbed the transformer and pushed it off of his hand. And he described this as something that nobody could do. It was too heavy. And when the guys that were helping him got up there, they were just shocked and amazed. They said, "How did you get that off your hand? We saw you push it off your hand." And later they all tried pushing the transformer, and no one could push it. And later on, he even tried pushing it again once he'd recovered, and he couldn't push it. But he found the strength in that moment to push it off his hand. And when he got to the hospital, the doctors told him, "You may lose your hand, and you definitely won't be able to go back to work for minimum 6 months." But then a doctor came in and he said, "Listen, I'm going to put your hand back together, but it's God that's going to heal you." And so the guy did the surgery. The next day, the nurse comes into the room, and my patient is moving his fingers, and she runs and gets the doctor, and the doctor says, "Do it again, move your fingers." And he started moving his finger, and the doctor was amazed that he could actually move his fingers one day out of surgery. And he progressed so quickly through rehab that he was back on the job in less than a month. And he now has full function of his hand. And he relates it just like to what that doctor said. He said that doctor had it absolutely right. He said that he could put it back together with the skills that God had placed inside of him, but it was God that was going to heal it. And that's his testimony of power and faith in what God can do. And it's just such a powerful testimony and such a cool story. I love the story. And the point is, he's been my patient for a long time, but I've never heard the story until I decided to deeply listen. What will you hear when you deeply listen? Moio, everywhere we go, don't miss the opportunity to listen.